The Seeds of Discontent. The story of the Declaration of Independence is a monumental tale of struggle, ideas, and courage that reshaped the world. To understand how this defining moment came to be, we must journey back to the mid-18th century. When the American colonies were a part of the vast British Empire. At first, the relationship between Britain and its American colonies was cooperative. The colonies provided raw materials and served as a market for British goods. In return, Britain offered military protection and a sense of shared identity under the crown. However, this equilibrium began to unravel after the French and Indian War, 1754-1763, a conflict that pitted Britain and its colonies against France and its allies. Though victorious, Britain emerged from the war burdened with massive debt. To recover financially, Parliament looked to the American colonies as a source of revenue. Laws such as the Sugar Act, 1764, the Stamp Act, 1765, and later the Townshend Acts, 1767, imposed direct taxes on the colonies, igniting widespread protest. References: Wood, 2002, Middlecoff. From Protest to Rebellion. The colonists argued that they were being taxed without representation in Parliament, a principle that they believed violated their rights as English subjects. Their rallying cry, "No taxation without representation," became a unifying slogan across the colonies. Petitions, boycotts, and eventually open resistance followed. The most dramatic of these acts was the Boston Tea Party in 1773, during which members of the Sons of Liberty dumped an entire shipment of British tea into Boston Harbor in protest of the Tea Act. In retaliation, Britain passed the Coercive Acts, known in America as the Intolerable Acts. These laws closed Boston Harbor, altered the Massachusetts Charter, and allowed British soldiers to be quartered in colonial homes. Instead of subduing the colonies, these measures galvanized them. In 1774, the First Continental Congress met in Philadelphia to coordinate a response. Although still seeking reconciliation, the seeds of rebellion had taken root. References: Meyer, 1997, Library of Congress Primary Docs. The war begins. Violence erupted on April 19, 1775, at the battles of Lexington and Concord. British troops attempting to confiscate colonial weapons were met by armed resistance. The first shots of the American Revolution were fired, and the path to independence became more certain. That summer, the Second Continental Congress convened. While many delegates still hoped for peace, others, such as John Adams, Samuel Adams, and Patrick Henry, argued for a decisive break from Britain. The publication of Thomas Paine's pamphlet, Common Sense, in January 1776, further inflamed revolutionary fervor. Written in accessible and passionate language, it condemned monarchy and made a compelling case for independence. Selling over 500,000 copies, it swayed many ordinary Americans toward the idea of forming a new nation. References: Paine, 1776, Ellis, 2000. Drafting the Declaration. By the spring of 1776, it became clear that reconciliation was no longer an option. Congress formed a committee to draft a Declaration of Independence. The Committee of Five included John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Roger Sherman, Robert R. Livingston, and Thomas Jefferson. Jefferson, just 33 years old, was chosen to write the first draft due to his eloquence and philosophical grounding. He composed the draft in a rented room, drawing on Enlightenment thinkers like John Locke, who had championed the natural rights of individuals, life, liberty, and property. Jefferson's draft went through several rounds of edits, both by the committee and the full Congress. Some of his most forceful language, especially a condemnation of the slave trade, was removed to secure unanimous support. Despite these edits, the final document remained a powerful articulation of the colony's right to self-governance. References: Meyer, 1997, U.S. National Archives. Declaration and Resolve. On July 2nd, 1776, the Continental Congress voted for independence. 2 days later, on July 4th, it officially adopted the Declaration of Independence. The document begins with a profound preamble that states the philosophical foundation of American democracy. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. It then lists 27 grievances against King George III, citing his refusal to assent to laws, his interference with justice, his imposition of taxes without consent, and his use of military force against the colonies. These examples form the case for separation. The final section of the Declaration formally dissolved the political bonds between the colonies and Britain, announcing the birth of a new nation. References: Avalon Project, Meyer, 1997. Repercussions and war. The Declaration was signed by 56 men representing the 13 colonies. Among them were well-known figures like John Hancock, whose bold signature became iconic, and lesser-known patriots who also risked their lives, fortunes, and sacred honor. Once adopted, the Declaration was read aloud in public gatherings and printed in newspapers throughout the colonies. The American people celebrated with bonfires, parades, and the ringing of church bells. Britain's response was swift and severe. King George III labeled the colonists traitors, and the war effort was redoubled. Yet, the Declaration gave the revolution a clear ideological foundation, helping the United States win crucial international support. France, inspired by the document's values, soon entered the war as an American ally, tipping the balance in favor of the revolutionaries. References: Ellis 2000, Wood 2002. Turning the tide as the war progressed, the ideals outlined in the Declaration kept morale high among the colonial troops and unified the colonies in their fight for independence. Key battles like Saratoga in 1777 and Yorktown in 1781 showed the resilience and determination of the Continental Army, supported by foreign allies. The words of the Declaration echoed through military camps and political chambers, reinforcing the legitimacy of their cause. References: Middlecoff, Meyer, 1997. Global Legacy and Influence. The American Revolutionary War ended in 1783 with the Treaty of Paris, which acknowledged U.S. independence. But the Declaration's impact stretched far beyond American shores. It became a beacon for oppressed peoples. Worldwide, the French Revolution, beginning in 1789, drew heavily from its language and philosophy. Leaders in Latin America, inspired by Jefferson's principles, launched their own battles for freedom. References: U.S. National Archives, Library of Congress Primary Docs, a living document today. The original Declaration of Independence is housed in the National Archives in Washington, D.C. It remains one of the most important documents in world history, a testament to the enduring power of words and the courage of those who dare to seek freedom. It is not just a relic of the past, but a living document that continues to inspire those who dream of a better world. Its principles have transcended the borders of the United States, shaping democratic movements across the globe. In the centuries since its signing, the document has been invoked in struggles for justice, equality, and liberation in all corners of the world. Whether in classrooms, courtrooms, or parliaments, the ideals enshrined in the Declaration continue to resonate. References: Wood, 2002, Avalon Project.